The auction block smelled like desperation and unwashed bodies, but Iris had long stopped noticing. What she noticed instead was the way the merchants' eyes slid past her section entirely, the way their gazes focused on the prime lots up front. She'd been standing here for 3 hours now, wedged between a woman missing half her teeth and another who couldn't stop trembling. The undesirables. The ones no one wanted. Iris counted her breaths and waited for it to be over. "Lot 63, the auctioneer announced, his voice flat with boredom. He didn't even gesture at them properly, just waved a dismissive hand toward their group like he was shooing flies. "Mixed lot, 18 females, Omega and Beta class. Suitable for labor, breeding stock, household service. Starting bid, 8 silver for the lot. 8 silver. Iris did the math. Less than half a silver each. She was worth less than a decent cut of meat. The crowd barely glanced up. A few minor alphas muttered to their betas, but no hands rose. Why would they? The desirable omegas had sold an hour ago, young, unblemished, from good bloodlines. What remained was the bottom of the barrel, and even desperate packs had standards. Iris kept her eyes on the floor. Eye contact suggested hope, and hope was a luxury she'd stopped affording herself 6 months ago. 6 months since her own pack looked at her across the judgment circle and decided she wasn't worth keeping. Not after what happened. Not after what she did. The bite scar on her left shoulder throbbed, phantom pain from a wound that healed wrong. Or maybe it healed exactly right, and that was the problem. The healers couldn't explain it. Said they'd never seen venom spread like that, turning the tissue silver white like frost on glass. Said it was lucky she survived it all. 6 silver, the auctioneer tried, irritation creeping into his voice. Come now, that's a bargain. Most are healthy enough. The dark-haired one there survived a rogue attack. Iris flinched. Wrong thing to mention. Survivors were either resilient or cursed, and she clearly wasn't being sold as resilient. Still nothing. The crowd was thinning, pack delegations heading toward the exit. The auction was ending. They'd be shoved back into the holding pens for another night, another round tomorrow, until someone took pity, or they were shipped to the work camps up north, where no one asked questions about damaged girls. 4 silver, the auctioneer said flatly. Final offer, or they're going to... That one. The deep voice cut through the marketplace like a blade through silk. Not loud, but absolute. Conversations died mid-word. Every head turned. Iris looked up despite herself, despite knowing better, despite the fact that hope was dangerous, and found herself staring at a man who made the word alpha feel like an understatement. He stood at the crowd's edge, but somehow the crowd wasn't there anymore, just empty space around him, as if people instinctively knew to give him room. Dark hair, sharp features, and mesmerizing green eyes. He wore simple traveling leathers, but they fit him the way a sheath fits a blade. The auctioneer's face went chalk white. My lord, I didn't realize. Which one do you... The Alpha King's eyes locked on Iris. That one. Before we continue, please like this video and subscribe. It will make my day. Now back to our story. The hall went silent. Not the polite silence of people paying attention, but the suffocating kind, the kind that happens when everyone stops breathing at once. Iris's heart hammered against her ribs. This had to be a mistake. Alpha Kings didn't attend backwater auctions. They certainly didn't bid on undesirables. And they absolutely didn't look at packless, cursed omegas like they were seeing something no one else could. But he was still looking at her. Those green eyes, impossibly green, like deep forest shade, hadn't moved. My lord, the auctioneer stammered, perhaps you'd prefer to see the private stock. We have several prime omegas reserved for... I said that one. Liam's voice didn't rise, but the auctioneer went silent like he'd been slapped. How much? She's part of the lot, Your Majesty. 4 silver for all 18. I'm not buying the lot. Liam stepped forward, and the crowd parted like water. I'm buying her. Name your price. The auctioneer's face cycled through confusion, then greed in rapid succession. For just the one? 20 gold, Your Majesty. 20 gold. That was more than some pack lords made in a year, for a girl who'd been part of a 4 silver lot 30 seconds ago. Iris waited for him to laugh, to realize the mistake, to move on to someone worth that kind of coin. Instead, Liam pulled a small leather purse from his belt and tossed it to the auctioneer without looking. It landed with a heavy thunk. "That's 50. Keep the change." The auctioneer nearly dropped it. His hands shook as he fumbled with the drawstring, peered inside, and went even paler. "Yes, of course. Thank you, Your Majesty. I'll have her prepared for—" "No." Liam was already moving toward the platform, taking the steps 2 at a time. The crowd pressed back, whispers rising like startled birds. "I'll take her now." Iris couldn't move, couldn't think. This wasn't happening. This was some fever dream brought on by too many nights in a cold cell. Too little food. Too much despair, finally breaking her mind. Then he was standing in front of her, close enough that she could smell him. Pine and smoke and something wilder, something that made her wolf stir for the first time in months. His hand reached out and she flinched. He froze. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed soft. "I'm going to remove the cuffs. Don't run." Like she could run. Like her legs weren't trembling so badly she could barely stand. His fingers were warm, against her wrists. The iron cuffs fell away with a soft click, and blood rushed back into her hands in a wave of pins and needles. She gasped. "Can you walk?" he asked. She nodded, didn't trust her voice. "Then walk." He didn't touch her again, just turned and started down the steps. After 2 heartbeats, she followed, because what else could she do? The crowd parted. She felt their stares like brands, shock, confusion, envy, disgust. Whispers followed her like gnats. Iris kept her eyes on Liam's back and walked. They made it outside before her knees gave out. She caught herself on a post, gasping, and Liam turned. For the first time, something almost like concern crossed his face. "When did you last eat?" he asked. 2 days? 3? Time blurred in the pens. He muttered something that sounded like a curse, then gestured to someone she hadn't noticed. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair and a sword at her hip. "Vex. Get her something, now." The woman, Vex, looked like she wanted to argue, but one glance at Liam's face changed her mind. She disappeared into a nearby tavern. Iris slid down the post until she was sitting on the cold cobblestones. Her hands were shaking. Everything was shaking. Why? Why what? Why did you— She couldn't even finish the sentence. "Why did you buy me? Why did you pay 50 gold for a broken Omega? Why are you looking at me like that?" Liam crouched in front of her, and this close she could see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw, the way his hands clenched and unclenched like he was fighting not to reach for her. "Because I know what you are." Ice flooded her veins. "I'm packless. Cursed. You heard them. You're not cursed." His voice was hard. "You're infected." The word landed like a stone in her chest. "What?" "Your bite. 6 months ago." His eyes dropped to her shoulder like he could see through the rough fabric of her dress to the silver-white scar beneath. "What bit you?" "A rogue. Wrong." The certainty in his voice made her stomach twist. "Rogues don't leave marks like that. What really bit you?" Iris's throat closed. She'd asked herself that question 1,000 times in the dark. When the pain had been so bad, she'd screamed herself hoarse, and the healers had held her down and pumped her full of sedatives that barely touched it. "I don't know. It was dark. I was gathering herbs near the border, and something came out of the woods. I thought it was a wolf, but... Its eyes were silver. Not yellow, not gold. Silver." She'd never told anyone that part. They would have thought her mad. "And when it bit me, I felt wrong. Like something was pouring into me that didn't belong." Liam's expression didn't change, but something flashed in his eyes. Something dark and hungry. "Show me. The bite." Her hands moved to her shoulder before her brain caught up. She pulled the neckline of her dress down just enough to expose the scar, a twisted pattern of white that spread from her shoulder blade down across her collarbone, like frost creeping across glass. In the daylight, it almost seemed to shimmer. Liam stared at it for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and traced one finger along the edge of the scar. Iris's entire body went rigid. Not from pain, from sensation. The touch burned like ice and fire at once, like something waking up inside her that had been sleeping, and her wolf surged to the surface with a force that stole her breath. Liam jerked his hand back. His eyes had darkened, pupils blown wide, and she could see his chest rising and falling too fast. What? She couldn't get enough air. What did you just... You're a silver vein, he said quietly. The word meant nothing to her. A what? An old bloodline. So old most wolves think it's a myth. He stood abruptly, putting distance between them, and ran a hand through his hair. They were the first alphas, before the pack system existed. They could command any wolf. Alpha, beta, omega. Didn't matter. One word from them, and you'd bare your throat. Iris stared at him. That's insane. Is it? He turned back to her, and his expression was something between awe and grief. Tell me you haven't noticed. Tell me other wolves don't react strangely around you. She opened her mouth to deny it, but couldn't because he was right. In the pens, the guards had avoided her section. When they had to come close, they'd moved stiffly like every instinct was screaming at them to submit or flee. She'd thought it was disgust, but... They were hunted, Liam continued, voice low. Centuries ago. The new pack lords couldn't control the silver vein, so they systematically wiped them out. Killed every last one. Or so they thought. But I'm not. I was born normal. My parents were normal. I didn't have any power until you were bitten. He nodded. Whatever bit you wasn't a rogue. It was something older. Something that recognized dormant silver vein blood and activated it. Iris's head was spinning. This couldn't be real. She was a packless omega worth 4 silver. Not some ancient bloodline, not something powerful enough to scare alpha kings. You're wrong, she said. You have to be wrong. I'm not. Liam's voice was certain. And I need you to listen very carefully, because your life depends on it. If anyone else realizes what you are, if the Pack Council finds out, they will kill you. They'll call it justice, or mercy, or necessary culling. But you'll be dead, either way. Then why? Her voice cracked. Why buy me then? Why not leave me there? Something broke across his face, just for a second. Something raw and desperate, and quickly hidden. Because I've been searching for a silver vein for 5 years, and I'm not letting the council take you before I get what I need. Before she could respond, Vex returned with bread, cheese, and a water skin. She glanced between them, frowning at whatever she saw in Liam's expression, but said nothing. Iris took the food with shaking hands and forced herself to eat. The bread tasted like sawdust, but her stomach stopped cramping after a few bites. We're leaving, Liam said to Vex. Your Majesty, the delegation is expecting you at... They'll wait. He looked at Iris. Can you ride? Yes. Good. He started toward the stables, then paused and looked back. One more thing. If anyone asks, you're a healer I hired. Nothing more. Don't mention the bite. Don't mention silver veins. And whatever you do, don't let anyone see that scar. Iris pulled her neckline back up, fingers numb. Where are we going? Liam's smile was bitter. Somewhere we can talk without worrying about who's listening. The ride took 2 days. Liam set a brutal pace, stopping only when the horses needed rest. Vex and 2 other guards, both grim-faced and silent, flanked them at all times. No one spoke except to call out landmarks or discuss routes. Iris had expected questions, demands, something. But Liam barely looked at her, and when he did, his expression was carefully blank. She should have been relieved. Instead, she felt like a rabbit being watched by a wolf, pretending not to be hungry. They reached Liam's territory on the evening of the second day, as the sun bled red across the horizon. His estate wasn't a palace. It was a fortress. High stone walls, guard towers, gates thick enough to withstand a siege. Everything about it screamed danger. Iris's wolf whined. "Home, sweet home," Vex muttered as they passed through the gates. The courtyard was full of wolves, soldiers, servants, pack members going about their evening routines. All of them stopped when Liam dismounted. The silence was immediate and absolute. He ignored it. "Vex, take her to the east wing. 3rd floor, far room. Make sure she has everything she needs." Vex's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Iris slid off her horse, barely, her legs screaming after 2 days of riding, and followed Vex into the fortress. She felt eyes on her back the whole way, heard the whispers starting before they'd even cleared the courtyard. The east wing was quieter. Vex led her up 3 flights of stairs, down a long hallway, and finally stopped at a heavy wooden door. "This is you," Vex said. She produced a key, unlocked the door, and pushed it open. The room beyond was larger than any space Iris had lived in her entire life. A real bed with actual pillows, a fireplace. Windows that looked out over the forest, a wash basin with clean water. "Bathroom's through that door," Vex said, pointing. "Food'll be sent up in an hour. Don't leave this room without an escort. Don't talk to anyone, and don't do anything stupid." "Like what?" Vex's expression was unreadable. Like trusting him. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. Iris stood in the center of the room, alone for the first time in months, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She settled for collapsing onto the bed. But sleep didn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Liam's face, those green eyes locked on hers, the way he'd said "that one" like she was the only person in the room. She pressed her palm against her chest, trying to slow her racing heart. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Not because of what he was, but because of how he made her feel. Seen, chosen, wanted. And she couldn't afford to want that back. Not when she was just a means to his end. When she woke, sun was streaming through the windows, and someone had left a tray of food by the door. Fresh bread, fruit, cold meat, a pot of tea that was still warm. She ate like a woman starving, because she was. Halfway through her second plate, someone knocked. She froze. "Come in?" The door opened, and Liam stepped inside. He looked different than he had at the auction. More relaxed, maybe. He'd changed into dark trousers and a loose shirt that did absolutely nothing to hide the lean muscle beneath. His hair was damp, like he'd just bathed. Iris's mouth went dry. "You're awake," he said. Not a question. She set down her plate, suddenly aware of the crumbs on her dress, the tangles in her hair, the fact that she probably smelled like horse and road dust. "Thank you. For the room. The food. We need to talk." "Right. Of course." She wrapped her arms around herself. About? About what I need from you." He closed the door and leaned against it, arms crossed. 5 years ago, my mate was executed by the Pack Council." Iris blinked. She hadn't expected that. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She was a silver vein." His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands clenched into fists. "They found out, and they killed her before I could stop them. Called it necessary for pack stability. Said her bloodline was too dangerous to let live." "But you're the Alpha King. How could they—" "The Pack Council holds more power than you think. They're the ones who approve kings, who can call for abdication, who decide what's law and what's treason. I'm only king because they allow it." His jaw tightened. "And I've spent 5 years trying to find a way to break them." Understanding crashed over her like cold water. That's why you bought me. You need a silver vein to… what? Overthrow them? To prove they're corrupt. To show the Pax what they really are. He pushed off the door, started pacing. The Council has been eliminating anyone who threatens their power for centuries. Silver veins, yes, but also any alpha who gets too strong, any pack that grows too large. They maintain control through fear and manipulation, and no one questions it because they've convinced everyone it's for the greater good. And you think I can help you stop them? I think you're the only one who can. He stopped in front of her, and those green eyes pinned her in place. Silver veins can command wolves. If you can learn to use that power, if you can make the Pack Lords see what the Council has done, they'll turn. They'll have to. Iris laughed, bitter and sharp. I can't command anyone. I can barely stand without shaking. You saw me at the auction. I'm not some powerful ancient bloodline. I'm just… You're more than you know. He crouched in front of her, and suddenly they were eye level. I felt it when I touched your scar. That power. It's there, Iris. You just need to learn how to use it. And if I can't? Something dark crossed his face. Then we're both dead. Silence stretched between them. Iris's heart was hammering again, but not from fear this time. From something else. Something dangerous. What if I say no? She asked quietly. What if I don't want to be part of your war? Then I'll protect you as long as I can. But eventually the Council will find out what you are, and they'll come for you. With me, you at least have a chance. A chance to what? Become a weapon? A chance to be free. His voice dropped, rough and urgent. You think I don't understand what it's like to be owned? To have every choice made for you? Every path decided before you take a step? I've been king for 10 years, and I haven't had a single day of freedom. Everything I do is monitored, controlled, approved by people who'd kill me in a heartbeat if I stepped out of line. He leaned closer, and she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight he carried. So no, I'm not asking you to be a weapon. I'm asking you to help me burn down the system that made us both prisoners. And if you do, maybe, we both get to decide what comes after. Iris stared at him. At this alpha king who'd paid 50 gold for a broken Omega, who'd lost his mate to the same people he was asking her to fight, who looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking for 5 years. Okay, she heard herself say. Liam's eyes widened. Okay, I'll help you. Her voice steadied. But on one condition. When this is over, if we survive, I want my freedom. Real freedom. No pack, no bonds, no one deciding what I am or what I'm worth. Just me. Something complicated passed over his face, but he nodded. Deal. He held out his hand. She took it. The moment their skin touched, that same burning, freezing sensation shot through her, stronger this time. Her wolf surged up, and she felt something shift inside her, like a door opening, like power unfurling from a place she hadn't known existed. Liam gasped. His eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising to meet hers, and for one perfect moment, she felt connected to him in a way that had nothing to do with pack bonds or alpha commands. Just pure, electric recognition. Then he pulled back, breathing hard. We start training tomorrow. He left before she could respond. Iris sat on the bed, staring at her hand, feeling the phantom warmth of his touch. Training was hell. Liam woke her before dawn every morning and dragged her to a private courtyard deep in the fortress. No guards, no witnesses, just the two of them and the slowly lightening sky. Silver vein power is about will, he explained on the first day. Not strength, not aggression. Pure, focused intention. You need to believe you can command, and the wolf will obey. That's the vaguest instruction I've ever heard. Try anyway. He'd brought one of his guards, A young beta named Soren who looked terrified and excited in equal measure. The plan was simple. Iris would try to command him to kneel. That was it. She tried for an hour. Nothing happened. "You're thinking too much," Liam said, watching from the sidelines. "Stop trying to force it. Just want it." "I am wanting it," she said with gritted teeth. "No, you're hoping. There's a difference." He stood, walked over to her. "When I command, I don't ask. I don't hope. I know it will happen, and my wolf makes it so. You need to do the same." "I don't have your confidence." "Then fake it." His voice softened. "Iris, you survived a Silvervein bite. Your own pack rejected you, and you didn't break. You stood on an auction block and kept breathing when most would have given up. You have more strength than you think. You just need to use it." Something in his words cracked through her frustration. She looked at Soren, sweet, nervous Soren, who'd volunteered for this because he believed in his king, and felt something shift. She didn't ask, didn't hope. She commanded. "Kneel." The word left her mouth with a weight she'd never felt before. Like gravity, like inevitability, and Soren's knees buckled. He hit the ground hard, eyes wide with shock, and stayed there. Iris stared. Did I? Yes." Liam was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Pride, yes, but something else beneath it. Something that made her stomach flip. He took a step closer, then seemed to catch himself. Stopped. "We should try again, with more wolves this time." But his eyes stayed on her a beat too long, and when he finally turned away, his hands were clenched at his sides. They trained every day for 2 weeks. By the end, she could command 3 wolves at once, could hold them for minutes instead of seconds, could make them do more than just kneel. But it exhausted her. Every time she used the power, she felt it drain something vital from her core. And the silver marks on her shoulder were spreading, slowly, subtly, but spreading, creeping down her arm like frost. "Is that normal?" she asked Liam one morning, after she'd managed to command 5 guards simultaneously, and then immediately collapsed. He was crouched beside her, steadying her with one hand on her shoulder. His thumb traced the edge of the silver marks, and she shivered. "I don't know. My mate never got this far. They killed her before." He stopped, swallowed hard. "What was her name?" Iris asked quietly. "Sarah." The word came out like it hurt. "She was everything. Smart, fierce, kind. She didn't want power, didn't want to fight. She just wanted to be left alone." His hand tightened on Iris's shoulder. "And they killed her for the crime of existing." "I'm sorry." He looked at her, and his eyes were full of something dark and determined. "Just help me make sure it meant something." 3 weeks after she'd arrived, Liam announced they were leaving soon. "There's a gathering," he explained over dinner. They'd started eating together in her room, a habit that had formed without discussion. "Every alpha in the 5 kingdoms, plus the Pack Council. It happens twice a year. And this time, I'm bringing you." Iris nearly choked on her wine. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "It's the best chance we have. All the alphas in one place, the council watching. If you can show them what you are, if you can prove Silverveins aren't the monsters the council claims, some of them will listen. And the ones who don't? They'll try to kill us." He said it so casually she almost laughed. "That's why we need to be ready." The night before the gathering, Liam came to her room late, after she'd already changed for bed. She opened the door in her nightdress, and his eyes went dark, almost ravenous. Sorry, I should have..." He started to turn away. "It's fine." She stepped back, letting him in. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, He ran a hand through his hair, uncharacteristically uncertain. "Tomorrow is dangerous. If anything goes wrong, if the council realizes what you are before we're ready, I know the risks. Do you? He crossed to her, and suddenly they were too close, the air between them charged. Because if they take you, Iris, if they hurt you, they won't. You can't promise that. Neither can you. She reached up, almost without thinking, and touched his jaw. He went absolutely still. But I trust you anyway. His hand came up to cover hers, pressing it against his face. His eyes closed. You shouldn't. Too late. When he opened his eyes again, they were blazing. His gaze dropped to her lips, and she felt herself lean in. But he pulled back, gently removing her hand. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. He was at the door before she found her voice. Liam? He paused but didn't turn around. Thank you for choosing me. His shoulders tensed. I'd choose you 1,000 times over. Then he was gone, and Iris stood in the empty room, heart racing, wondering if he could feel this pull between them as strongly as she did. The gathering was held at the council's stronghold, a massive fortress that made Liam's look like a cottage. Hundreds of wolves filled the great hall, alphas in their formal regalia, betas acting as guards and advisors, a handful of omegas serving food and drink. Iris felt their eyes on her the moment she entered on Liam's arm, felt their confusion, their disdain, their barely hidden disgust. Liam's hand tightened on hers. Ignore them. Easy for him to say. The council sat at the head table. 5 ancient wolves who radiated power and cold authority. The eldest, a woman with silver hair and eyes like chips of ice, watched Iris with an expression that made her skin crawl. Alpha King Liam, the woman said, her voice carrying across the hall. How kind of you to join us. And with a guest, I see. Counselor Thane. Liam's tone was perfectly neutral. May I introduce Iris? She's a healer in my employ. A healer? Thane's smile didn't reach her eyes. How useful. Tell me, child, what pack are you from? Every conversation in the hall stopped, waiting. Iris lifted her chin. I'm packless, Counselor. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Thane's smile widened. Packless, and yet our king brings you to a formal gathering. How irregular. She's under my protection, Liam said, voice hard. Is that a problem? Not at all. Thane waved a dismissive hand. Though I must say, your taste in companions has always been unconventional. The emphasis on the last word was deliberate, a reminder. Your last companion was a Silvervein, and look how that ended. Liam's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. They made it through dinner without incident. Barely. Iris could feel the tension in every conversation, the way wolves kept glancing at her and Liam, whispering, planning. It was near midnight when everything went to hell. One of the younger alphas, drunk and belligerent, cornered Iris in a hallway. You're the packless Omega, he slurred, stepping too close. The one warming the king's bed. Iris backed up. I'm not... Don't lie. He grabbed her wrist, yanked her forward. Everyone knows. You think you're special? You think he won't get bored and throw you back to the... Let her go. Liam's voice cut through the hallway like a whip. He stood at the far end, perfectly still, but his eyes were blazing gold. The alpha laughed. Or what? You'll challenge me over some used-up... Let her go! This time it was a command. The alpha's hand sprang open like he'd been burned, and Iris stumbled back. Liam crossed the distance in 3 strides and put himself between them. You will apologize. Now. I don't apologize to... Liam moved. One moment he was standing still, the next his hand was around the alpha's throat, slamming him against the wall hard enough to crack stone. You will apologize, he repeated, voice deadly soft. Or I will break every bone in your body and leave you for the scavengers. Choose. The alpha's face went purple. I'm sorry. Liam dropped him. The alpha collapsed, gasping, and Liam turned to Iris. Are you hurt? She shook her head, still shaking. Good. He looked back at the alpha, who was struggling to his feet. Spread the word. Anyone who touches her answers to me." Then he took Iris's hand and led her away. They didn't speak until they reached her room. Liam closed the door behind them and leaned against it, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. "You didn't have to do that," Iris said quietly. "Yes, I did." He looked at her, and his eyes were still gold. "He had no right to touch you, no right to speak to you like that. He's not wrong, though." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I am Packless. I am an Omega. And everyone here thinks I'm only here because you— I don't care what they think." He crossed to her, and suddenly he was close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him. "You're not here because I want to bed you. You're here because you're the strongest person I've ever met, and the only one brave enough to stand against the council with me. Liam. And if any of them had half your courage, the council would have fallen years ago." His hands came up to cup her face, and his touch was achingly gentle. "So no, I won't apologize for defending you, and I won't pretend you're anything less than what you are." Iris's breath caught. They were so close. Close enough that she could see flecks of darker green in his eyes, could feel his breath on her lips. "What am I?" she whispered. "Mine." The word hung between them for one perfect suspended moment. Then Liam kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't soft. It was desperate and hungry, and full of weeks of tension finally breaking. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and she melted into him like she'd been made to fit against him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Liam rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that," he murmured, "since the moment you told me you'd help me burn it all down." Iris laughed breathlessly. "You have terrible timing." "The worst," he agreed. "The council will use it against us, and if they find out what you are, they'll kill us both." She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "I know, but I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of hiding. So if we're going to burn it all down, we might as well burn together." Liam's smile was slow and devastating. "I can work with that." He kissed her again, softer this time, and she felt something settle into place, like a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. They had one more day before the council's formal assembly, one more day to prepare, and then the real fight would begin. The assembly hall was packed. Every alpha in the 5 kingdoms, their betas, their advisors, all gathered to hear the council's annual address, to receive their orders, their assignments, their carefully maintained illusion of choice. Iris stood at the back with Vex, watching Liam take his place among the other alphas at the front. He hadn't looked at her, but she'd felt his awareness of her like a physical touch. Councillor Thane stepped forward, and the hall fell silent. "We gather today to reaffirm our commitment to pack stability," she began, her voice carrying easily, "to the laws that protect us from chaos, from the threats that would tear our society apart." She continued, outlining new restrictions, new rules, new ways to consolidate council power. The alphas listened with carefully neutral faces. This was it. This was the moment Liam had been waiting for. He stood. "Councillor Thane, I have a question." Thane's smile was cold. "Of course." "Alpha King. These laws you propose, they seem designed to weaken individual packs, to ensure no single alpha grows strong enough to challenge council authority." He stepped forward, and Iris felt the shift in the room. "Why?" "For stability, of course. Is it stable to eliminate any wolf who shows too much power? To hunt down entire bloodlines because they threaten your control?" His voice rose. "To execute mates, children, anyone who dares to be different?" Gasps rippled through the hall. Thane's expression went ice cold. "Careful, Alpha King. You're treading dangerously close to treason." "Am I?" Liam looked around the room, meeting the eyes of Alpha after Alpha. "Or am I just saying what we've all been thinking? That the council doesn't serve the packs. It controls them. And anyone who questions that control is eliminated." "Enough!" Thane's command rolled through the hall like thunder. You will sit down and— No! Liam's voice cut through hers, and Iris felt the power in it, the alpha command that made even council members flinch. I won't sit down. I won't be silent. Not anymore. He turned to face the assembled alphas. 5 years ago, my mate was executed. The council called her dangerous. But her only crime was being born with the wrong bloodline, a bloodline they've spent centuries trying to erase. The Silverveins were dangerous, Thane started. The Silverveins were powerful. There's a difference. Liam's eyes blazed. And the council couldn't control them, so they decided no one else should have them either. This is treason, one of the other counselors said, standing. Guards, seize him. Wait, Iris's voice cut through the chaos. Every head turned. She stepped forward out of the shadows and felt hundreds of eyes lock onto her. You want to know why Silverveins were dangerous? She asked, voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. I'll show you. She reached up and pulled down the collar of her dress, exposing the silver marks that now covered her entire left shoulder and crept down her arm like living frost. The hall exploded. Shouts, gasps, wolves surging to their feet. Half the alphas looked ready to attack, the other half looked ready to run. Thane's face went white. Impossible. They're all dead. We made sure— You made sure to hunt us down like animals, Iris said. To kill us for the crime of being born. But you missed one. She stepped into the center of the hall, and wolves scattered away from her like she was fire. Her heart was hammering, but she kept her voice level. You want to know what makes Silverveins dangerous? It's not violence. It's not aggression. It's the fact that we don't need your permission to exist. She looked at Thane. Kneel. The command rolled through the hall like an earthquake, and Counselor Thane, ancient, powerful, untouchable, fell to her knees. The silence was deafening. This is what you fear, Iris said, looking around at the assembled wolves. The possibility that someone might